Good morning, all. I apologize for the delay. There's little Zoom issues getting on. Looks like we have all of our committee members here. I'm not sure. Sean, are you recording?
I believe that the recording did go off and it did say that we are currently recording.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I didn't, must have happened before I got here. Thank you, sir. It is 9:34. We'll call this meeting to order. Introductions. Why don't we start with committee members first? I'm John Morrissey, at-large member of City Council here in Port Orchard.
Heidi Fenton, council member, position 5.
Fred Chang, council member, position 6.
Mr. Mayor.
Rob Futatsu, Port Orchard Mayor.
Excellent. Mr. Bond.
Nick Bond, Community Development Director.
Mr. Fisk.
Jim Fisk, Principal Planner.
Mr. Sean.
Sean Raja, Associate Planner, City of Port Orchard.
And Mr. Connor.
Connor Dahlquist, Assistant Planner.
Excellent. There's all our city folks. And how about some of our community guests joining us today? We'll start with Mr. Joe.
Good morning, Joe Morrison, Kita.
Excellent. Mr. Cody.
Cody Clark, Executive Director of the South Kitsap Chamber of Commerce.
And Miss Monica.
Monica Adams, past president, Port Orchard Bay Street Association.
Excellent. And Miss Sarah.
Sarah Butler, representing the Port Orchard Bay Street Association and G. Anderson Group.
Excellent. Anybody I missed? Doesn't look like it. Looks like I got everybody. Thank you. Let's start with agenda item number 2. Our discussion today is AKEDA 2024 Economic Development Report. Is this going to be covered by you, Joe?
Yeah, sounds fun. Let's do it. And if I can get the ability to share, Sean, I'd appreciate it. And if you want, I think I could bring it up.
Yeah, Nick, do you have the ability to make Joe a co-host?
I just did.
Okay.
Okay. I like how I said that, and then this is not the particular item that I've got, but give me a second.
Hey, well, they're getting Joe's slides up. Hey, Cody, there's the invitation for the Visiting Angels ribbon cutting has conflicting information on. It says Wednesday, February 14th at noon. Well, Wednesday's the 12th.
Yes. And we actually heard last week that they're pushing it back a week anyway. So it's not the 14th, it's the following week, the following Friday.
21st now. At
Yes.
the same time?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I'm glad I asked the question.
Of course.
And we need to get a meeting on the calendar, you and Sam and I and
Yep.
Fathoms.
I'll be sending that email out today.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Excited to hear about support and collaboration on Fathoms. I'll take you through this really briefly. This is our results as of the end of fourth quarter, with about half of our year elapsed. And so the Department of Commerce requires us to do a variety of things: work with companies, talk to companies about moving to our community, help new companies form, help connect companies to export opportunity, train businesses, and hold trainings. So those numbers are roughly tracking at or above 50%. We'll put more time into recruitment as we head into these last 5 months of the year. I don't anticipate any issues. Moving down and talking through some of these items, I'm not going to talk about everything, but I will point out a couple things. WaveC, our autonomy program, basically focused on drones in the water, related to the Navy as the largest customer. They get a lot of interest from international delegations. So at that time in fourth quarter, they had engaged with Latvia and Australia. This quarter, they're looking to engage with Sweden. It's just something I think is interesting. I'll also point this out, which you should be hearing from me in the next week or two on this item: Kitsap Industrial Land, Buildings, and Infrastructure Survey. we've spent about 6 months looking through all the industrial lands in our community and all the buildings and getting data on them and trying to understand what is healthy for our community in terms of having industrial buildings that companies can move into and utilize, and having the necessary infrastructure underneath that. And this is even more important since we're talking about long-term federal investment in this area, billions of dollars for the shipyard project. Those companies are going to need places to put things. The Navy's going to need to move people around as they demolish buildings, stand new things up. So that is a major focus for our organization. Something else that I should point out related to the Navy is that we, on Friday, released an email notifying everybody that the Navy has started their 2025 real estate solicitation process. And so they're looking for administrative space, warehouse space, laydown space, and industrial space, 4 categories. And they're starting off very general, right? It's literally just a spreadsheet that you have to fill out in email. But all real estate folks need to take that step to qualify for a more in-depth step that'll happen later this year. And that's something that we've been directly engaged on. And so I think that is most of the news that's worthy of printing. I will say something else about printing. If you go over to the Kitsap Sun, on Sunday's paper, we had a pretty big article. And so this is 1,500 words on everything we do at the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. It includes things we've done last year and things we're planning to do this year. Just a couple things that I'll point out that's on our mind. Let me get there. Southside infrastructure growth. So along with the focus on the shipyard, sort of where we see a lot of opportunity for jobs, commercial and industrial growth is along the Highway 3 corridor from Gorse to Belfair. And we'll be starting to bring folks together to talk about how can we improve infrastructure in that area. That's something we'll be working on in 2025. We're also hiring somebody for a workforce position. We expect to make that announcement in the next week or two. It's been a really great experience. And the goal here is to get more individuals and qualified individuals into our workforce and talent pool here in the West Sound. This person will start by trying to stand up a program with the Navy. They have some other things that they're tasked with doing as well. So that's all the news that's fit to print. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I can do that sometimes, and I'll take any questions you folks have.
Before I open it up for questions, can somebody check and see? It sounds like Gary Anderson was trying to get in and needs approval. I don't see it on my end. I'm not a co-host. Somebody would check that. I'm going to start off with an easy question for you, Joe, before I open it up to everybody else, because this is something that kind of came up recently and just in a public forum. I'd like for have an answer. You guys offer a ton of great programs to our community. How does somebody first initially engage with you and your team?
Oh, it's easy. Just send us an email or give us a call. Yeah, we're really responsive. All our emails are listed on our website. If you're signing up for our government contracting program, there is a formal enrollment you have to go through, but that is a web form.
Excellent. Thank you. Who has additional questions for Joe and some of the things he talked about this morning? You did such a great job. So I'll ask another quick follow-up. A great article in the paper over the weekend. Saw the announcement for you got to make it through phase 1 to be able to be part of phase 2. Are there any particular areas in the south part of the county, particularly in the city of Port Orchard, that the Navy or we should be looking at that will be participating in that process?
I would say that there's 2 opportunities. So one is, I think that there might be opportunity for involvement by some of the folks out at the Port Orchard Industrial Park. There's also some industrial land in the south of Kitsap County. It may be outside the city's jurisdiction that we need to get a better handle on and understand. But that might be potential for development as well. More to come when we release our survey.
Any other questions for Joe?
Joe, I have a follow-up question to what John asked, which is, what percentage of the city's industrial lands would you say are fully utilized right now?
I would have to go to the numbers and look at that. I can say that I know that Port Orchard has put in for shovel readiness grants to do additional planning out at the Port Orchard Industrial Park. So I imagine there's some room there. Nick, can you comment?
I can. There's a couple of pads. I noticed one of them's got a land use activity sign on it right now. That they had a big mound of dirt there as you're heading in towards our beyond that. You know, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with the expired gravel. You know, RV Associates had the gravel mining operation there, and they've got a chunk of land there that's theirs. We have some acreage, but it needs to be mined before it can, you know, it's a slope. So it's up above the decant facility. So it's not anything that it need to be platted and mined. It would be years before anything we have could come to market. And you know, an expensive process.
Yeah, I would just add to that there, you know, I think the waterfront industrial property that we have is all pretty well utilized at this point. There's not a lot on the waterfront that can be developed. We do have a comprehensive plan amendment that was filed by an owner of property this year to change some industrial property to residential, and it has to do with there not being a commercial access to that property. And so that's going to be going to the council as part of the 2025 comprehensive plan docket for this year, but the council won't see that until the end of the month here to even tell us whether we should look at the application or not. But that's a relatively small area.
Any other questions for our KETA presentation? Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 3, pre-application meetings. Jim, Nick? Or
So
Sean?
I
Sean, go for it,
can pull up the site plan. Again, this is just a pre-application meeting. Nothing is set in stone. They have not applied for this. They simply came to us asking for insight on this particular project. So I will go ahead and share my screen here. Jim, can you give me co-host status? Thank you very much. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. So essentially what we have here is along Bethel Avenue, Bethel Road. And let me pull up the other map for the specific location. Second here.
This is just north of the China Sun restaurant along Bethel. So it's between Blueberry and Salmonberry.
Right. Thank you very much, Nick.
So the grayed out portion on the bottom left is the existing China Sun building and parking lot.
That is correct. And this is located next to the future currently Hidden Hills apartment complexes. So you have the wetlands there. That's what you have, the 60-foot buffer. So essentially they're looking to build up that commercial area. And it looks like currently it's proposed for a mixture of fast food, car washes, and retail. Again, this is just a pre-application. There are a whole bunch of other things they wish to do generally, and they're currently working on that process for some different rezoning to make a more mixed use in this area. Any questions?
Another car wash?
I mean, if they think that uh, if they believe the market is there, then, it's up to the developers, right? As long as they fulfill our code.
I, I will say I've had conversation with somebody who's looking to buy the Hidden Hills apartment property behind there. They don't want to do apartments, which is what we've already gotten pre-app. They want to do fee simple townhomes, which would create home ownership, and it would require for that to work. They'd need some relief from some of our design standards that potentially could, Nick, could that potentially come through a development agreement, possibly?
No, I mean, we're doing revisions to our code for middle housing, and I think that's going to tackle most of the issues
Okay,
that they're facing, but that's not going to be done until June.
yeah, and yeah, so anyway, there's some activity on that. It's not probably going to be, and I'd like it not to be apartments. Matter of fact, the Hidden Hill property, if we could get some home ownership out of that, and we don't have townhomes that are being built in that manner currently in our market. So I think it's could be well received.
Funny, my youngest brother is moving to Vancouver, Washington next month, and just on Friday had an offer and accepted of a townhome down there. So we don't see very many in our town. So I would agree with your statement, Mayor Rob. Any other questions around this pre-app? And you said this was the first meeting, Sean?
Yes, it was the first meeting. They have emailed us questions. We've responded by email for the questions they have, but it looks like they are preparing to submit, maybe not in the next month or two, but they're looking to get all their documentation together, probably go through with some kind of submittal. They are thinking about now, it's not on the pre-app, but it is something that was discussed, and that was rezoning the back half of the property to see what they can do by adding maybe some residential in the back area and keeping the commercial in the front area. But again, that's for when we actually get a submission and what exactly they're submitting.
So Sean, I know Crawford Lane is in this area, which has been a problematic area for our code enforcement department. So are they under contract with all these property owners?
No,
Not-
this is just between Crawford Road and China Sun. It doesn't include Crawford Road. We did make the developer aware of the potential noise impacts of putting a car wash next to a residential street, and also suggested to them that some of those Crawford Road properties could be available, and that might be something that they want to look into. But we did point that out to them.
Okay, thank you. Would be nice to get that area cleaned up with some redevelopment.
Any other questions? Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda. I think the only other thing I'd bring for good of the order is I would like to, and I think I missed my opportunity to connect with Sean on this, so I'll connect Sean with Sean on future ongoing topics. I'd like to revisit either I'll kind of let staff see what kind of workload they have, either just revisiting and highlighting current ordinances that maybe are the biggest snafus businesses kind of run into in the permitting process, or just maybe work through what that timeline and workflow looks like. I know some of my conversations in the past couple of weeks down in Olympia have been even with some business owners, not necessarily inside our jurisdiction, but talking about permitting times and state law potentially changing to be worth you don't get your permit done in a set amount of time, that it's going to be free even, things like that. So I just want to have us prepared to have those conversations and be able to speak accordingly with the citizens of Port Orchard. So that brings us to roundtable. Anybody for good of the order? Mayor?
I just got to follow up with Cody. You know, thank you for getting me the new date and time, but I haven't seen in any of those emails for West Sound either where the address is, where it's at. So
I have an email coming to you soon, in the next, I think, half an hour. I already have it scheduled to send. It has a flyer for all of that.
perfect. Thank
So
you.
it has all of the information for that ribbon cutting specifically.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cody.
Of course.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hey, can you send that to me as well? And I'll push it out on the Bay Street Association
Can do.
channels. Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. A question actually for you, John, about LTAC and the FIFA stuff. Were you asking the LTAC committee to fund FIFA out of what they had already allocated to the other entities?
We are asking for submissions at the moment. We haven't asked the committee to either way just yet. We're asking, we're going to be asking for submissions for projects FIFA related.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Are you expecting that to be funded from the money that they've allocated to the existing, or are you possibly dipping into the reserves?
Possibly neither. I had a conversation with Director Crocker. It sounds like this year's income came in a little higher than had been anticipated. So there may be some funds that we can allocate without having to dip into anybody else's or the reserves. I was out sick the latter half of today's my first day back in action. Don't get what's going around, team. But I'm hoping that we don't have to impact anybody else and we can do this pretty seamlessly. But I need to have we didn't completely close the loop on that conversation yet.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
And
Mr. Mayor, you might have some insight.
Yeah, remember when we're doing our budget process in October and November, we don't have all of our revenue for the year. So in January, we true up, and close out our books for the year. So there's a little bit of money left over that we overperformed, that we didn't have that knowledge, in the fourth quarter of last year. So at this point, there's just applications have been reopened asking for activities related to FIFA, and all options, then it's up to the committee then to make a recommendation. But I think we've got a few dollars that we can add to the bucket.
okay. John and Heidi, you may recall that we got a series of letters from Jared Fagan on January 28th regarding Bay Street. Did this committee want to address them? They do seem to be topics related simply to his concerns. I asked if they reflected like POA or POBSA, but apparently they may just be his concerns, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to address them, maybe here or separately.
I am completely unaware of the letter.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
We got 4 letters from Jared that he sent to Heidi about downtown Bay Street. And I just wasn't sure if he was speaking for himself or for an organization as a whole. And Monica, I have a feeling that POBSA was not involved. So my question to the committee, though, is do we want to address them? And
so what's the question, Fred? You haven't told us what the issue or question is.
Can you share the content?
yeah, there are 4 letters. One was about the parking options downtown. One was about unfit dwellings. One was about sandwich board signs, and the other was about
Pedestrian.
activated signals. So these are 4 letters that he basically forwarded to Heidi, which she shared with council members. And I'm just wondering if we want to address them here.
Possibly, I don't know. I didn't forward them on to staff for them to be prepared to address them. I don't know if you did.
No, that's
Okay, so I
I
think
saw
it'd
the
be fair
part-
that I'll forward that on
Yeah.
to Nick and team, and we'll have that be part of our next committee meeting.
What was the fourth one, Fred, after sandwich boards?
it looks like a pedestrian activated signal. And
Thank you.
Monica, a lot of these I experienced deja vu because I thought, okay, these are, and we have perennial issues, and some of them I thought we may have addressed. That's why I wasn't sure if he was writing on behalf of POBSA or himself.
It was,
Um,
I saw one of the letters related to parking, so I can address three of the things,
Yeah, and I-
fairly easy. One being, we will have, when we rebuild Bay Street, we will have more of the activated signals, just like we have at the other end of town. The one that, at Frederick currently, it's not repairable. That's WashDOT's, so the ones that we're doing are going to be much just like what's down at the other end of town there by at what street is that? Harrison. So we'll have them as part of our Bay Street rebuild. Is his concerns around parking and having a merchant lot? We had a merchant lot in the past and no one used it. I don't have a lot to offer. I mean, there is paid parking that the port offers. We can't utilize the merchant parking, and that is for customers, and that's an agreement through with the years ago. So the waterfront behind the what is it, the 4-hour parking back there can't be used to allow for. And then A-boards just aren't allowed. That'd be a code enforcement issue if so I can't address the other one that I'm not aware of or what the issue is about derelict homes.
derelict buildings.
Derelict buildings, yeah, we've had pretty healthy conversations about that. Derelict and
discussions about this.
dangerous are two different things, and we can address dangerous, but the laws don't allow us to deal with what people feel are derelict.
Is something, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say on the parking, I remember him, I mean, he was saying he was gonna get some, those papers out, and then I was just gonna forward them. I think when it comes to parking on the main roads in front of the businesses, when you only have one employee there and it says 2 hours, he was wondering how that can maybe go back to 4 hours. So with one employee can get out easier, or when there's people coming down there to spend money, they only have time to maybe go to a restaurant and then they got to move the car or go. And so he's thinking 4 hours in front where you can go shopping, you can go eat. And so I'm not sure how you go about. I think Fred just says maybe the POWA decides on that, all the businesses, and then it changes over. But so he was concerned more about how long you can park in front of that main street.
Yeah, I would certainly hope that our businesses aren't having their employees park on Bay Street. There's other parking that's problematic, and that is what does occur. And they park in front of their doorstep, and then their customers complain that there's no parking because.
Well, no, they move. They have to move.
Right. And I'm pretty sure that if we made it 4-hour parking instead of 2-hour parking, those employees would park for a half a day in front of that business and then move 2 stalls down. So I welcome input from the Merchants Association, but we've plowed this a few times in the past.
Yeah, and maybe I got that all wrong because I know he pays for parking down at the he pays for parking down at the bank because
that can be an option for folks too.
Oh yeah, it is for sure. And so my other question though was kind of on the LTAC. When we are getting money for the World Cup, now we're going to keep that here in our city. We're not going to put our LTAC money and give it to Bremerton since they're the main hub over there. We're going to be keeping that in our city. Is that correct?
We haven't got the proposal yet, but I would hope that the proposals that we get are for marketing activities to visit Port Orchard during this time is what would be my goal. But we are we're asking for applications for people to give us proposals for marketing for FIFA. That's as far as we've gotten. We haven't got the proposals yet.
I know, I was just making sure we keep our city money in our city money and we're not putting that across the water. That's all. My question is,
The goal of lodging tax is to be used towards creating more tourism in our city.
yes,
So
yes, correct.
however the committee allocates that money will be how that goes. Any other questions, Heidi?
Oh, no, thank you.
Perfect. Joe?
Well, I'm gonna cede my time to Monica and then follow up because I kind of wanted to ask Monica some questions. So I hope she's gonna talk about downtown certification a little bit, maybe. So I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay. Monica?
Wow, do I look prepared? Well, first, my question, my hand was up because in regards to derelict buildings, and I was thinking about, this isn't a building, but maybe it's a code enforcement Olympic bike and skates sign, and Fred's, his stand to have a sign that's crumbling on the outside of his building. It's just, it has been a peeve of mine for like 15 years.
Nick, could you have code enforcement? I noticed that again this morning myself. So could have code enforcement look at those. He's got signs that are from, gosh,
20 years
ago when the buildings got painted and they never got reattached to his building, and they're wooden signs and they're just deteriorating and they're sitting on top of the marquee leaned up against the building. They just need to be removed.
Which building is this? Is it the bike shop one?
The bike shop and next door. His building, but there's 1, 2, 3.
Well, and his feeling is that he's sticking it to code enforcement. I mean, that has always been his, because I was like, why don't you update your sign? He's like, nah, 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 nah. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks
They're
awful.
almost, yeah, they're
All right, so Joe, can you tell me, help me frame up, what do you want to hear from me? What's your question?
So Monica is, correct me if I'm wrong, you're pursuing certification for a historic downtown district, is that correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
we were approached I'm going to say the Waterfront Alliance. So the Bay Street Association is now a DBA because we're taking probably a year to shift our status and our name and all of that. But we're moving to an alliance where we want businesses and merchants and council members and all of us leaders in our community to have an alliance for downtown revitalization. And Joe Morrissey, sorry, was I just mixed you two up and made you into one person. John Morrissey approached us about becoming a Main Street organization, which we looked at back in the days when Don Ryan was president. So it's a big ask. We would have to change our tax status and our not impossible. So yes, I'm leading the charge as we step in. We're rewriting our bylaws and we are reformulating our inner committees to align with the 4 pillars of Main Street organization. And then really this year I see it as like we need to just do all the back end foundational work. So essentially we will be bringing together and asking of the community to support us, like how to move forward. But as a Main Street organization, we would then have access to federal funding. We would be able to utilize, and John, you can jump in here if I say words incorrectly, excise and B&O tax from our larger businesses where they can allocate a percentage of their B&O tax and bring it back to our community, which would be incredible. It would increase our capacity for funding. Right now, we have been a small business merchant run organization and we've subsisted mostly on LTAC. So it would be taking us as an organization to the next level, which is really a perfect growth time for us. It's timely. And then we're also watching in the wake of Bremerton's, you know, they had it, they lost it. What do we need to do so that we have a better chance of getting and gaining this status and keeping it? Because I think essentially 2-3 years from now, we would need a director, somebody that had a paid position, and we've never had that as an organization. We don't have a brick and mortar. We don't have, you know, a location. We've just been volunteers. So it's been discussed or hypothesized that maybe as the event setter comes online, maybe this Main Street director could also be in help with the city overlay with that. And I mean, it's right now, it's just theory, but we're really trying to bring this in our community to raise us up and give more federal resources to.
So you got a good chunk of it there.
Did I do
Monica.
good? What did I
Yeah,
miss?
You did pretty good. So Bremerton didn't lose theirs. They applied. They were hoping. They never get it the first time. It wasn't the first time, but it was first time after getting things back in order. So we've talked about it. It's probably a minimum of 5-year program.
Yeah.
I've done a little back and forth with Brian Durham, is the Washington Main Street Program Director, and we're trying to get a meeting on the books as well. They had some change and then being able to connect. So we played some back and forth, and we're trying to line up the right resources. The person that Bremerton used possibly now is not going to be the person that Port Orchard may be working with. So I was familiar with that person, and so trying to get everybody situated. We're going to see what that looks like. But yeah, I think Monica and team are already taking the right steps, creating an ad hoc committee, and beginning to start the framework towards moving towards that real possibility.
When you say 5 years, do you think it's 5 years to succeed at certification? Which I could believe. Like the bar is high. The bar is very high.
Yes, and that's why we're trying to be realistic, that we know that it's not going to be an overnight process. You got to engage with Main Street. One of the first steps we're going to look at is becoming an affiliate, having POWA become an affiliate there, which is what Bremerton's done as well. They have very high likelihood that next year Bremerton will get its status. It took a long time, right? Some of it was the organization getting itself in order, finally got everything done there, and then you got to go through the process. And like I said, generally your first time, you're not just going to get a yes in applying. And so that's kind of the last step. And we're hopefully going to watch and cheer along our neighbors across the water there as they get their certification end of next summer. But we hope to bring something there. It just unlocks tons of resources that our downtown could really benefit from.
John, thanks Monica for taking that on. It's really hard, and I know I hope and know everybody around here will be as supportive as they can. And it sounds like it's a really long process. So as you go through it, just reach out to us and everybody else on the call to get the help you need. Thank you.
Yeah, I think they're already doing the right thing. Working on, she did a beautiful job of explaining. I don't know if she did with this group here, but I've heard Monica talk about just their simple name change, and really what it means and what it's doing, and really finding allies in our community. It doesn't have to be known as a business community downtown anymore. It's really about our core district in our downtown area, and gaining allies and people to help support us. So I think they're on the right path.
Well, I have to
yes.
if I just want to say it, you know, when Mayor Rob asked the Bay Street Association to help guide the Christmas event, I just felt like everyone came together. I mean, we had churches and the Ford dealership and the chamber and all of their businesses, and we all, that was the coalition, right? It was a coalition, and there were so many hearts and minds in there that this is the next phase of how we're doing business now. We don't have to be separate. We have more power together.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Sarah.
I just wanted to add a little bit more to that. We are going to be working on our beautification project again this year, a couple of times. My goal is to get the several of the different landscapers involved that are in our community that have reached out, as well as garden clubs, to take care and taken care of making sure the flowers are watered, that everything downtown is perking back up in the summer. The weeds are taken care of, all of that down there. So just look forward to that. That will be coming out probably. We're looking to pick some dates in the next month to kind of make sure that we're all on board. I guess, Mayor Rob, my next question for you is, I know that we have part of the downtown painted and was able to get some of that done. And I know that we have the road changing here at the end of the Bay Street. Is there a way to get the parkings like stripped and all the rest of the curbs painted this year, or the cracks filled down where
They did
lights
paint
are?
them they did paint them this year, Sarah.
There's quite a few places that are still missing, so
Well-
I'll have to walk through that.
Okay, we remember though, it's unfortunately, we used to be able to use an oil-based paint, and for probably 10 years now, we can't. And so it's water-based.
Mhm.
Doesn't last the way that it used to.
Okay,
And so we do it every other year. And
Right.
when you questioned last time, I'm
Yeah.
pretty certain that they had done it. It's just, it fades fast. So it's about every 3 or 4 years we do other areas, but downtown gets it more often than the rest of it.
okay, I'll have to go check, because I was looking and there were a few places that it didn't look like that even got touched, so I just want to make
Okay,
sure
just
we're
not-
covered and make
Yeah,
them all
take some
clean.
pictures and let me know where, and I'll
Okay.
definitely address it with Public Works.
Great, thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, I've got a little something in
Yeah.
that
Great.
same order. I was downtown last weekend and standing on the corner, and on the water side of the intersection of Bay Street and Sydney, the downspouts are clogged or something because water's pouring over the top, and you can't stand on the corner waiting for the light to change without getting wet or stepping out into the street. So might be just a maintenance issue there.
Unfortunately, that's Monsour's building. It's not I don't believe, I'll have Public Works look and see if it's related to our marquee, but I don't think it is. I know what you're right there on the corner, Gary, you're referring to.
Yeah.
It fills
Yeah,
the
that's-
planter.
Yeah, that's Monsour's rotten building.
Oh,
Is that a code enforcement thing?
The walkway doesn't
Yeah. Nick,
property.
is the gutter not working right, code enforcement worthy?
I think so.
Pouring,
We can look
cascading
into it.
water.
Okay, Nick can have code enforcement take a look at it.
Thank you.
This is the building at the top of Frederick?
It's the Myries building.
Oh, the
It's on
Myries
on the,
building.
on the
okay.
corner of
Mhm.
Sydney, and so it's on I would say it's probably 3 to 5 feet up the Sydney side of the building there on the corner. The whole thing is rotten and canted forward, so the water runs out towards the street, and then in heavy rain it sheets off of
It
it.
pours like a waterfall, and then
Yeah.
it does, there's a cement planter that's kind of right below it, and it just fills that whole thing. So it's 55 gallons of water in this cement planter, and it's just, the whole thing is, I mean, we should go down there in the rain, really, and take a picture of her. But I'm,
Yeah, it's not it's sheeting off of Mark, his
I think so
his
too.
structure. I'm familiar with it.
On Bobby's
Mhm.
side of the street too, so it comes off both of his buildings.
Yeah. There's been problems in the past, up Sydney on the corner there, and it actually collapsed, and then they came in and repaired it, but
Oh, okay.
so they've made repairs to it before. Hopefully we can get them to do it again.
Hey, I had another comment back on the Main Street entity that you're trying to form.
Mhm.
Sounds like a good idea, but is that something that requires, bylaws, mission statements and all that stuff? Well, I mean, what did Bremerton do to get theirs approved?
So Gary, it's basically an existing organization gets a designation. And then once you get, there are some hoops to jump through to gain that designation. And then once you gain that designation, there's a funding model behind that that helps be able to create some ability to fundraise that makes it very enticing.
Okay. Just wondered if we could learn something from how the process Bremerton went through.
We are
Yeah, and
absolutely.
as their immediate past president, I've got a little of that historic knowledge. So I'm trying to glean as much as that onto our friends here at POWA.
Thank you.
Monica.
All this marquee stuff got me wondering about the marquee. Can we speak about, I honestly apologize if it's old news because I have not tuned in all year on this. The marquee plans with the road changes and things like that.
No, it's not part.
No.
The area we're doing the road isn't, it's from Geiger to Frederick and
Right.
you know, it's, gosh, in 10 years ago dollars, it was more than $1 million
I know.
per quadrant to address the
Mhm.
marquee and the street lighting. You could double that number, so $8 million. So
We've seen plans, right? I mean,
yeah, we know
someone has,
what we need
yeah.
to do. It's
Mhm.
well, and that's just to remove the marquee and put street lights in.
Why can't we just fix the marquee?
It's not.
Not fixable?
Funny.
All the poles are rotten, so the poles
Yeah.
have to come out. They're attached to
Yeah.
buildings. I
Yeah.
understand the comprehensive challenge.
And
But you
so
have
it's- yeah, it's not structurally, so the rotten poles are the light poles, the large, they're rotten. They are back in the, I don't know, 40s, 50s. They recycled the
telephone poles.
I think they were pilings.
Oh, wow.
Wood pilings, okay? And that's so that isn't what holds the marquee up. That's the decorative aspect to it. Those the wood wrap posts, inside of that is a steel post, okay? And those are, it's perfect. Structurally it's fine. It's just not aesthetically pleasing. So it's not in danger of falling down. We might lose half of a rotten light pole at some point. So that's why we had to quit putting garland on it. We can't attach anything to it because those poles aren't sound. But they aren't what holds up the marquee. Because the marquee it's largely metal, and it has metal posts, and then it has a wood facade.
Are the plans to remove that then? Is that the plans going forward, or can we rebuild?
That was a plan that was developed about 10 years ago to remove the marquee, and underground the power, and to put new street, because our street lights are on those poles. So you take this away, then we got to put, so that was that plan for at that time for about $4 million to do all of it, which we didn't have, and we don't have double that today. Would put in new street lights on one side of the street, and then like lit bollards on the other side of the street.
And do we have to continue with that plan, or can we work towards keeping the marquee? I mean, I think it really helps our businesses downtown.
There's
for people
no
walking
way to keep that
prevent the
marquee.
rain.
Yeah, there's no way to keep that marquee and make repairs to it, really.
Can we strip the wood off and resurface the metal?
You guys did some painting on it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing cosmetic repairs to it. If you guys want to paint it, you did some painting last year.
We did some painting. Yeah, that's definitely on the list if that's something we're allowed to do, and keep working on that.
Sure, absolutely.
I do have another question for you. The parking lot that's at the corner right across from Revival, where it's
the gravel
city
lot,
parking, the little gravel lot.
Yeah, it's not a formal parking lot. It's really we're allowing the contractor to use that during the marina pump station so that their vehicles aren't impacting the parking downtown. And it'll likely get used for a construction laydown yard for the road project when we go to do it.
Okay, is there a possible way? I mean, I really like how when you go to Bremerton, like all their electrical boxes on the streets are all painted and all that. Is that something that we can do to that wall there? Could we get creative and have somebody paint that wall? Like a
Love it.
mural of some sort?
I love it. Sure.
Okay. So are you giving me permission to do that? Because I'm gonna do it.
I would go get me information on what you're gonna do and give us the concept. And
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about it at a city council meeting and get the city council to buy off on it. But I like your idea and run with it and bring me back a pretty picture.
Oh, I can do that. I'll get you a design as soon as I can.
Let's
Thank
do
you.
the matching one down Sydney on the wall next to Fred's building.
That's on my
Is that-
to-do list. Fred
is
and I have
that
already
city?
been talking.
That's his
Okay.
build. You may have to work
It's
with
his
Fred, but
building.
that's Fred's building you'd be
Yeah.
painting.
We've already been talking about it, so it's
Okay, cool.
definitely on my to-do list.
Anything
You
else?
know,
Sarah?
and I don't have a problem. Sometimes folks hang banners for your activities and stuff on that fence.
That's okay. That's wonderful. Yeah.
I think you
that's-
gotta
that's
get a
good to know.
permit to do that, Nick.
Okay.
Correct? Or is that through the clerk's office?
For a permit for what?
On Frederick, the chain link fence for festivals or events, and I think the clerk's office handles that.
Yeah, that's part of a special event application. You can request a banner to be put on the fence, right?
I think
Banners.
that's
Yeah,
the
banners are
law.
usually temporary signs,
Right.
so
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's city property though. So,
right.
so I think there's an application to the clerk's office.
Mhm.
Anything else, Sarah?
No, that helps me. I'm just getting my list started for the year.
Perfect. We got a few more minutes here. Miss Heidi.
Yeah. Oh, I like your idea, Sarah. That's called beautifying our downtown, and we need more of that. So be creative. And then on the marquee, if those posts are all rotten, how can we just keep leaving them there? I'm kind of curious about that. We just keep those posts up even though they're rotten and they're not holding the marquee up.
So I think you're getting tricky
the
on
lights are
some of
attached to
that
it as well.
because some of it is, you know,
So the poles though go into the sidewalk. And so now you go to take one of those poles out. Now you got a big sidewalk repair project. So they should be fine as long as we leave them alone and nobody hits them. I mean, a car hits it, it's gonna break off pretty easy. It's not very solid. The wood's rotten. But as long as we don't hang banners on it and garland and things, it's probably gonna stand for many more years, those poles. But
So then we can't afford replacing it in the future though either. Can we do it in phases? Like, can we do a half a block as we replace?
that's always been my idea.
Great idea.
The quadrant, matter of fact, where the theater is,
Mhm.
it is like, you know, I've been hopeful that redevelopment is going to drive this, and when new buildings come, they're going to build us new weather protection and new facades for their buildings, you know.
Nice dream.
Yes, that's been my dream for a while. And but by the theater, I don't see that block redeveloping. So if we were going to tackle a block, because I'd hate for us to spend a whole bunch of money on something and
That makes
then
sense.
5 years later, a developer comes in and tears it all down, and when we wasted our resources.
Sure.
So
when we start the project and we see and people see it, they tend to drive more to it. I've had a lot, you know, just from simple painting things, just landscaping that area down there, more people are starting to pay attention of they're in front of their businesses. And that's kind of the goal of what we want. So if we can start a project like that and say, oh, look, well, we're going to start one block at a time and move it, it might be something to encourage the business owners to participate in.
I know I've informally talked to a few business owners, and it's gotten mixed ideas because we wouldn't be, I mean, it'd be a couple $1 million just to take it down and put some street lights up on one quadrant. And talking to the businesses, I know that the Seagos would love to have the marquee down, but yet the owner of the building where the Thai restaurant is likes the marquee.
He does like it, yeah.
And so
Well, I
know?
would say in my 20 years on the POPSA board that I think if I mean, a lot of those business owners aren't building owners. right? But
Correct.
I know the like building owners like Fred, he probably doesn't have the funds to put like making them aware that they should start saving now for infrastructure. If in the future the marquee gets removed, they're going to be responsible for getting an awning over their building, right?
Well, they don't have to.
I don't think there's a
They
rule.
don't?
They don't have to. No,
That's not a code?
no.
No, it's
No.
just
It
really
is,
nice.
it is a code if they make an improvement to their building to have weather protection, but if they're not doing anything to their building, they wouldn't have to do anything.
But wait, they've had weather protection for,
Yes.
you know, how long?
It's a can of worms, Monica.
Yeah, for
It's a
sure.
freaking can of worms.
Right.
Well, I'd love, Mayor, if you are meeting with some of those building owners, I'd love to join you and just kind of let them know downtown what we're trying to do, and especially getting it ready for a FIFA coming. I want to just kind of beef it up a little bit more this year than we did last year.
And
So,
hey,
hey-
John, oh, sorry, does beautification come into some of that Main Street expectation? Are we supposed to be a prettier looking downtown like
One of the
Gig
four
Harbor
tenant, one
or
of the four tenants is design, so.
Design.
And that doesn't mean that you have to be doing it, it just means that we have a locus of energy put in one place that both the city and the local business owners are all on the same page when it comes to what that design looks like for our downtown. So we don't have to be as specialized as Leavenworth or a Poulsbo, for instance.
Oh, it's going to be pretty.
Well, but those
It
are
should
very
be.
specific in what those buildings and outsides of those buildings may look like. Whether you're a Safeway or a Jiffy Lube, for instance, but you know, there's one look and aesthetic feel. So more to come.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so it does look like we are at the end of our hour. So thank you all for participating today. Thank you to staff for supporting us. And I don't have a calendar right in front of me. March 10th would be our next meeting. Sean, is that accurate? Yes.
That is accurate.
Perfect. Mark the calendars. March 10th will be the next Economic Development Tourism Committee meeting. Thank you all. 10:30. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you.
Great day.
Everyone.
Bye, you guys. Have a great day.